Hi, I'm Paisley if you don't know me yet. Thank you for joining in this practice for the hips, legs, and low back today. You're going to want something for balance. It could be a chair, you could even use the wall or a countertop. A yoga block or two would also be useful. So let's get started. We're going to begin standing. And to start, like we always do, we just take a moment to center our attention. So let's do that by taking a breath in and letting that breath go. Now, we're going to bend the knees just a little bit with the feet, maybe shoulder to a little wider, hip to shoulder width, somewhere in that range. Now, this is where you're going to use your tool for balance, because what we're going to do here is with that little bit of a squat, we're going to keep the elevation of the torso, and we're just going to raise the heels. And so we're going to do this a handful of times. We're going to drop the heels slowly. We're just warming up the feet and starting at the bottom of the body to begin to open the channels of the legs. So go up and down with your feet, but not with your torso. You'll notice that my hips and head aren't changing in elevation. So try to go slowly, do a few more passes, articulating over the balls of the feet, just noticing if you tend to do all the work in one, or if one foot is like less controlled than the other. Try to even that out. Just really come high on the balls of the feet. And then with control, we're just kind of warming up that posterior chain, which attaches right under the balls of the feet. Last one. Good. And then drop the heels and stand. You can push your chair to the side if you do in fact still have one. I'm going to move mine way over there. And then we're going to take the feet maybe 4 feet apart, and we're just going to slightly turn the toes out. It's just a natural stance. Let's use the hands on the hips. This is just going to be a balanced position with the hands. And we're going to bend one knee. We're just going to lean over to the side. And then we're going to come to center. So now we're moving that bending up into the knee and the hip just a little bit. So as you go side to side, your hips are shifting. They're not really going forward or backward. They're just going side to side for now. Kind of tracking your knee over the foot, and you're just going to like push into the straight leg and bend into the bend one. And then come up to center. Now this is where a block might be handy, just depends on your flexibility. We're gonna send the hips back and we're gonna take the chest forward. So if you feel like the floor is far for you, you can grab a brick or put your hands on a coffee table, whatever works for you. So here, still keeping the feet just at a natural stance, so not perfectly parallel, but a little bit turned out. We're going to repeat the same action we just did. We're going to lean to the side, lean over to the right, and straighten the left leg. Come to center, lean over to the left. So kind of push into that straight leg. You should start to feel your inner thigh beginning to stretch. So you're both warming up or strengthening the bent leg and stretching through the inner thigh on the straight leg. So let's go back and forth a couple more times, nice and slow, just mindfully moving and bringing some breath into this movement so that we keep it nice and yogic. So let's make this be the last pass to each side. One to the right. One to the left. Come on up to center with your hips. Take the heels out so the feet are true parallel now, and then on the exhale, bend your elbows and take your head down. If the prop isn't useful, just move your hands to the floor or even hold onto your ankles. Let's try to lean the hips just a little forward so they're kind of stacking in line with the ankles so they're not behind the heels. And then try to squeeze the knees a little bit straighter and release the weight of the head. Infuse a breath into the shape of the pose and into any place that feels tight in your body. Okay, climb your hands off of the floor, back onto your prop if you have one. If you don't, that's fine. And just kind of heel toe, wiggle your feet, walk them back in toward one another. When they get to a comfortable distance, you're gonna bend your knees in a squat. You're gonna drop your hands by your sides. You just keep your knees parallel. Push your knees apart. Hold, hands drop down, butt back. And then drive down into both feet, keeping the knees pressing wide as you stand up. Turn your toes out slightly again. I'm gonna move my block just because I don't need it there anymore. And we'll do this same squat shape just a few times. So we're gonna focus on building some strength in the outer hips in kind of a version of chair pose or Uttanasana. So classically it's done feet together. We're taking a liberty here. Push the knees apart, almost like you have a band around your ankles or knees, elastic band. And then once you have that kind of pressure out, squat back with your butt, reach forward with your arms. Try to keep your feet in full contact with the floor, and then push the knees apart, drive down into your feet, and squeeze your butt muscles as you stand. We're gonna do this a few more times. So exhale, push the knees apart. Inhale. Let's do that 2 more times. Knees apart, but inner edges of the feet down. Try to steer your buns straight back. Don't let them go side to side. I have to look sometimes because mine want to rotate. Squeeze the butt muscles as you stand. Last one, knees wide, pushing out. Butt back. Try to feel those outer legs working even as you stand. Good job. Okay, we're gonna turn on the mat, facing the short edge. Legs parallel now, back to kind of that normal stance. And on the in-breath, take the arms all the way up overhead. With the feet parallel, squat again, so more like a true chair pose, but with the feet apart. Parallel feet, still pushing the knees out to the sides. Take 1 breath, and then fold forward over your legs and take your hands to the floor. So as you come into Uttanasana, have that same memory where the inner edges of your feet, kind of big toe edges, those push down, but it's almost like you're trying to slide your heels apart from one another. Try to do that in such a way where it's not so fierce that you're like trembling. You might have a little jiggle going with that work, but enough that you start to feel kind of the outer line of the back of the legs. Keep that work, take a breath, push into the floor, a block, your shins, lift the spine, lift the throat, lift the chest away from the floor. Activate the legs, like you're trying to spin the feet apart from each other, but the inner edges stay down. And then exhale, fold. Let's do that 2 more times, just like you're pushing the feet apart, the knees apart, rise, chest up. Your knees are staying pointing forward, because you have your feet planted on the ground, but you're just working the outer line of your legs. Fold forward again. Last one. And now this time when you exhale, you're gonna step back with your left knee and you're gonna put your knee on the ground. Now, if you feel like balance is hard for you, you could put your hands on a block. I'm gonna come up with my hands on my knee. So back foot, you're gonna go toes flat and you're gonna push straight down with the top of your left foot. Okay, so right now you can see I'm upright. We're gonna stay upright in this lunge for now. We're gonna tuck the tail and squeeze the butt muscles, the left one in particular. And we're gonna drive that foot into the ground. So keep those pieces in play. And then we're gonna lunge forward and backward in a little pulsation. So as you do that, you're gonna think right hip and knee forward, left hip back, like you're splitting the hips right to left. And then we're gonna come up and we're gonna do that a few more times. So active work in the back leg. Push the toes down, squeeze the left butt cheek, Left hip back, right hip forward, like you're splitting the hips front to back. That's 2. Keep going. So I don't care as much about how deep or forward you're going. I am more interested in you keeping some engagement in the back leg. This is how you're going to build a more stable flexibility, or we would call it mobility, right? Strength in the range of motion, not just collapsing in the pose. Let's do just a couple more. Left toenails down, squeeze the left butt cheek, bend forward, think left hip back, right hip forward. Now find somewhere kind of in the middle of those two, not at your maximum end, not at the top, and then reach up with your left hand. So we're gonna go nice and high, still thinking like we're splitting the hips, left hip back, right hip forward, and then we're gonna side bend over to the right. Now, if it starts to kink a little bit in your low back, just bow slightly forward with your head, and you may notice that that shifts the stretch in your left hip flexors. That's the front or anterior side of that leg. Left toenails push down, squeeze the glutes on the left, lift up and lean to the right. Last one here, in this upright shape, we're gonna twist to the right, and we're gonna take hold of the outside of the knee and reach straight back with the right hand. So as you twist, you're kind of pushing your knee and your hand together, so that same outer line of the leg is working. And that's gonna keep you from toppling, hopefully, so that the rotation is in your spine, not in your legs. Maybe you turn the head and look back. Left toes down, squeeze the left glute, push and pull the knee and hand against each other, reach back through the right hand. Good job. Inhale, untwist, both arms overhead just facing forward. And then exhale, hands down. We're gonna shift to putting the heel on the ground. Again, this is a place where you could use a block if that's helpful for you. If not, no big deal. For now, have a softness or a little bend in your right knee. Push down in your heel. Check that your hips haven't rotated right or left. And then you're gonna lengthen first, just lift your spine, lengthen it up. And then send your hips back and your head forward. And you might climb off the block at that point, straddle the leg or put the right arm inside the right leg. Right heel pushes down. Usually when the hips go back and the head goes down, the legs change a little. So just check if it's gotten more straight or less straight. Try to keep it right in that sweet spot. Okay, come on back up. We're gonna push that right foot to flat, and then we're gonna step forward with the left foot next to the right. So just come into your Uttanasana. Exhale, fold in. Bend your knees, feet are parallel, chair pose, arms up, push the knees apart, but keep the inner feet down. Stand, lift the chest, lift the gaze. On exhale, fold right back forward into your forward bend. On the in-breath, lengthen the spine. Imagine that you're spinning your toes, your feet away from each other, but keep the inner edges of the feet down. Exhale, fold, step back with the right leg. Drop your knee. Inhale, come up, kneeling lunge, hands on the left leg. We're gonna take those right toes and we're gonna put the toes flat. Push down there. So this is doing a few things. When you actively work that leg, it increases your control through the range of motion. It's also probably gonna help you not cramp as much in the right hamstring. So toes down, top of the foot down, squeeze your right butt muscles, tuck your pelvis under. Try to keep that engaged and then bend forward. So we're gonna do this a few times, coming up and down. Again, less concerned about how far your range of motion is and more about you kind of controlling that work through the range of motion. And one thing that this will do is it'll keep your hips pointing forward and not let them turn to the side at all. So we're really trying to do that so we get into the front of the right hip. So just check when you're upright, toes, top of the foot down, tail tucked, butt squeezed, lean forward. Think right hip back, left hip forward, like you're splitting one forward, one backward. 2 more. Keep breathing. Now you're finding that middle place where you're not way deep forward and you're not too far back. You're going to take your right arm up and you're going to side bend over to the left. Now remember, if it's crunchy in your low back or even in your hip flexor, just back out of the pose or in your hip socket really. Find a way where you can manage without causing any pain. Stretching is different than pain, hopefully. Okay, let's twist. Bring that right hand across to the outside or top of the left leg. Push the knee to the left and the hand to the right. Twist. Open your left arm back behind you. Hips are nice and stable because you're actually working them. You're pressing the top of the right foot down, squeezing the right glute. Left knee pushes left, right hand pulls right. Turn your belly. Maybe turn your head. Good job. Untwist. Inhale, both arms overhead, kind of a more traditional Anjaneyasana or kneeling lunge with a little engagement in the back line. Okay, hands down. Shift your hips to stack over the right knee. Push the heel of the left foot forward. Sometimes I pick it up when I do that. Okay, remember you can grab your block here if it's hard for you to kind of lift and straighten your spine. We're going for that long line in the low back. Right now, just a touch of softness in the left knee. It might go straight later, that's fine. Push your heel down, just check. So my hips tend to swing left a little bit. So just check that they're square, not winging off to either side or rotating. Get that nice long inhale as you lengthen your spine. And then on the exhale, think hips butt back, head forward. Both hip bones back. That way your hips stay square. Try to get a couple smooth breaths in there. Okay, come up with your head. This time you're gonna take your left knee back and have a seat on your mat. I'm gonna face you for this one. Okay, so we're gonna go, let's go right leg out on a diagonal and left knee bent. So your hips are pointing kind of in line with the long edge of your mat, but you've got one foot kind of off on a diagonal there. So we're gonna lean slightly to the right and we're gonna let that left hip drop down. You can use your other hand for support. So you're gonna take your left hand out to side. You're gonna sweep around, turning your ribs to face your straight leg. As you turn, find a location to land your hand. It doesn't have to be your foot, just wherever it goes for you. So I like pushing down with the right hand, kind of pulling across the shin with the left. Take another inhale and just kind of pause in this more upright position. And then on exhale, think butt back, head forward. And both hips anchored. So that left hip will tend to want to get lighter. So just stay here. Lift that left elbow up a little so your shoulder is a little more on your back. It's not like rounding forward as much. And then lean your chest toward your knee. Head towards foot. Breath in. Breath out. Okay, come on up. Good job. We'll switch the legs. So right one bends, left one straightens. Initially, we're gonna do like a little side bend over to the left. You can use your left hand somewhere to support you in that. We're gonna reach out through the right hand, and then we're gonna rotate the ribs around, and we're gonna let the hand kind of land where it lands. So we're not trying to get farther yet. That might happen, but right now, on the in-breath, pike your chest up and your butt back. So you're thinking almost like you're sliding your hips back behind you as you elevate the chest and lengthen the spine. So this is kind of like stage one of any forward bend, is being able to get that length. Now on the exhale, start to lean over your leg. As you do that, you can push down with your left hand to kind of help that rotation and pull across your shin with your right hand. Let some weight fall into your right hip. Maybe just a tiny elevation in the right elbow so that the right shoulder is kind of lifted onto the back and less collapsed forward. Take your time and just continuing to picture chest forward, head towards toes, butt sliding back toward the space behind you. I feel like I could stay in that one for half a day. It feels so good. Okay, sit all the way upright. We're gonna put both legs outstretched in front. It's really nice to have your last pose. We're at the last active pose here. Be symmetrical. It's just balancing. So both legs straight out in front, hip width or so, narrower if you want more stretch, wider if it's too intense. So let's do the same work. We're gonna lean forward. We're gonna take the hands wherever it's easy to get to. And then we're gonna inhale and we're gonna lift the spine. So this action of like drawing in and up, that's first in a forward bend. Squeeze the legs straight. Now fold forward. As you fold forward, you might be able to climb your hands out a little bit more. And just apply those same principles where you squeeze the legs straight. The heels should be down. So if the heels come up, you're hyperextending. And in your mind, you're thinking your butt bones are pushing back toward the back behind you, and your head and chest are reaching forward. Lift your elbows slightly. As you go deeper, you point your elbows forward as well. So as you bend them, it's like they're reaching out in the same direction the soles of your feet are facing. Stay for a few more breaths. Letting any tension in the back body unwind. Just not rushing anything, not trying to force the head down, just being patient. Good work. Inhale. Come on up. Okay, let's lie down. Just for a couple of minutes. It's a really good idea always to just take that Shavasana, we call it, to allow everything to kind of integrate. When you get there, you might decide that you need something else like a twist or, whatever. Take that as needed. And then what we're going to do to kind of keep the mind in the pose is we're just going to allow physical sensations in the body to come and go. And what I mean by that is just notice right now, what in your body are you feeling? Is it the weight on the floor? Is it tingling or a pinging in a joint? And then just let that sensation stay as long as it stays in your awareness, and then let it dissolve on its own. So we're just watching, taking a little mindfulness moment to observe what we feel without trying to catch every single thing that we feel or hold on to what comes, but just to let the mind wander through whatever sensations are occurring in the body. probably notice that your mind drifts away from the body, and it's not the end of the world. Just come back. Just try to be in your body for another maybe 30 seconds to a minute. No judging, no fixing anything, just being with, turning towards, and allowing. And now let's fill the lungs with a full, satisfying inhale. And just let that go. Slightly deeper exhale. You can stretch your toes, move your ankles. Reawaken however you want. And then in time, just roll over onto your side. Give yourself a moment. And then push on up using your hands, your elbows, and maybe bringing your head up last. Just mindfully transitioning, just like we do all those other mindful things, just a pause, sitting. Okay, my friends, thank you for practicing. I'm certain that your hips and your back will feel different now, so hopefully it's better. Either way, thank you for being here, and I will see you next time.